we do not endorse any drugs or medications that have been mentioned in this episode. The Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, along with various pharmaceutical companies, have not sponsored or endorsed this episode. The views and opinions expressed in this episode do not necessarily reflect those of the host and its staff. Hello, everybody. I'm Ed Robinson, and welcome to another exciting edition of The Robinson Show. On the program, I have Colette Nelson. Colette is a professional bodybuilder, certified diabetes educator, registered nurse, and nurse practitioner. On the program, we discuss the best and worst things about bodybuilding, her thoughts on steroids and performance-enhancing drugs, type 1 diabetes, and more. Colette is coming up after the break. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Robinson Show.
Hi, this is Joe Helm with Helm Paint and Decorating. Happy to announce our new 4 locations in Baton Rouge. We are new to Baton Rouge, but not new to paint. We are a family-run business with over 50 years experience, assisting customers with the best quality Benjamin Moore paint, supplies, and design services. We also offer free, fast delivery and expert color matching. Call or stop by any of our locations on Perkins, Jones Creek, Highland, or Choctaw, or shop us online at helmpaint.com.
Helm Paint and Supply.
Helm, yeah.
Color can change the entire feel of a room, which means change the way you feel about being in that room. Hey, it's Jody for Helm Paint and Decorating with 4 locations now in the Baton Rouge area. We love them. It's family-owned and operated, which means you get that human service, helpful service. They're the home also of Benjamin Moore Paint with beautiful colors, and they're happy to take their time with you, let you decide. Now on Perkins, Choctaw, Jones Creek, and Highland, helmpaint.com.
Modern life is noisy. Noise is everywhere. Excessive noise is harmful, linked to sleep deprivation, hearing loss, and heart disease. Should noise be the price we pay for progress? Actually, no. Many noise sources have quieter options. Gas-powered landscaping equipment is obsolete, with battery-powered options greatly reducing noise and air pollution. Audible car alarms are obsolete, with vehicle immobilizers and GPS tracking providing silent anti-theft technologies. Quieter backup warning sounds are available, and adjustable directional sounds are less intrusive. So what can you do to reduce noise levels? Talk to store and building managers about safe sound levels. Work with elected officials and the police to strengthen noise enforcement. Join Noise Free America, a coalition to promote quiet.
Hey, everybody. Remember to subscribe, and thank you for watching. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the program. This lady that we're getting ready to talk to is someone that is a game changer, not just in the world of sports, but also what she's doing in the world of nursing, also educating a lot of people about an epidemic that has gone on for quite a long time. She's definitely somebody that's a Renaissance woman, and certainly, you can't say a jack of all trades, but she's definitely a Jill of all trades. Let's welcome her to the program, Colette Nelson. Hey, Colette, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for that introduction. That was very sweet.
All right, you're welcome. And thank you so much once again for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us on the program. So let's get right to it. Let's just start from the beginning. Doing some research on you, and that you grew up in Michigan. So tell me, what was your upbringing like?
So I was born in Southfield, and right around that suburbs of Detroit. I really grew up in Royal Oak, Michigan. So it's a cute little suburb right outside of Detroit. I mean, it's very Midwest. It was, very humble beginnings. My father owns a plumbing company. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. Nobody in my family was really athletic. My aunt did dabble with weights, and she did inspire me. But no one was like, oh, Colette, this is what they're in the gym, they're in track, they're in field. Like, no one was really, that was not how they were living. And my father was just a workaholic, so I think that's where I got that type of drive in me. I mean, that's what brought him joy. He just loved to work. He loved his company. He just, so I learned that innately, just to have that just weird drive, even as a young child. But interestingly enough, my dad was diagnosed with type 1.5. So I'll throw in a little bits of education throughout this podcast, but type 1.5 is a latent autoimmune diabetes in the adult. We did not even know about that in 1982. It wasn't even anything on the map. So they diagnosed my dad with type 2 diabetes, and they put him on something called diabetes, which is no longer even available. It's a sulfonylurea. It causes the pancreas to make more insulin, which my dad didn't make. He was essentially an autoimmune diabetes attacking his beta cells. So within 6 months of starting on the medication, he was back in what they call diabetic ketoacidosis. And I just remember as a kid, I mean, at the time I was around 10, I'm like, what's going on with Dad, you know? And it was scary, and he was put on insulin within 6 months. That was the only way to control his diabetes. Like any type 1, anyone listening to this, the only way to treat type 1 diabetes is with insulin. There is no other option. So it was like something was in the water, 2 years later, his little girl was experiencing the same thing he was. You just, can't even imagine. You can't even imagine. I was starting, junior high. I mean, I was in my adolescence. I was in cheerleading. I was doing everything. I was, I saw the whole world as a big promise. And, you'll never know what that, I remember the day. I get teary-eyed when I think about it. My whole life changed at 12 years old. I mean, you just can't imagine. My dad now was taking insulin shots 2 years prior, and here I am sitting and facing the same thing. And my parents were in complete, what is happening, And when I was diagnosed, I, went to my dad's clinic. His endocrinologist opened up. It was like 10 o'clock at night. He opened up the office for us. They were unable to get blood. I'm so surprised I didn't go into DKA. I did not. They put me on insulin that night. And I just remember saying, I remember, I'm not going to do this forever, right? Like, this isn't going to be forever. And unfortunately, at the time, this is the only option you have. This is it. You're going to have to figure it out. I'm like, oh my God, my whole life changed, and I was like determined to cure it. And I'm 12 years old. I don't really know anything, right? So I started working out. I said, Mom, I read enough to know, like, you got to go to the gym, you got to eat good, you got to have this healthy lifestyle. Not really knowing that type 1 diabetes, there is no cure, and there still isn't a cure. There's some exciting things that we get down the line I can talk about in terms of futuristically, we're really close, I think, that we've ever been to a cure. But meanwhile, my mom's like, you're going to school the next day, and this was a school night. And I said, I'm not going to school. And she goes, what are you going to do? What are we going to do? Are we going to just stare at each other and look at each other and say, oh, my daughter has type 1 diabetes, she has to take insulin shots? And I'm like thinking, Mom, my mom was real tough on me. But the reason I'm the way I am is because, she just had, you have to face whatever life has to give you. And I'll tell you what, life is not easy. And if anybody ever anybody listening to this knows that that's true. And if you think it's easy, it's not. It's about a lot of pain and a lot of suffering to get to the other side. And I really learned that. Without suffering, there can be no glory. There can be no pot at the end of the rainbow. You got to go through a lot to get there. So I went to school the next day with my little, back in the day, you thought you had to always refrigerate insulin. So anybody listening to this, you do not need to refrigerate insulin. It does not need to carry it around. It's very stable. It's very shelf stable. Really, they found they put new FDA guidelines. Most of the insulins are good for 56 days out of the fridge, and I've broken that rule 100 times. So I always find it interesting that people are still carrying around these little, cooler packs. You really don't need to do that. So, but anyway, I had to do that back then because that's all we knew. And I'm carrying around this little cooler pack of insulin. It's unbelievable. I don't even know how I'm as normal as I am, but I'm not normal, so that's okay. So, I pressed on. I took my insulin shots while I was at school. I went to the bathroom. I didn't even want to deal with the nurse, I'm like, Mom, I'm not going down to the nurse thing. It looked like the weirdo kid that has to go down to the nurse. I said, I'll just go to the bathroom and take my insulin shot, So I really became very independent, very much into medicine, very much into my health, very much into nutrition, very much into working out. I was the youngest kid at Back Wall Fitness. That was in Madison Heights in Michigan, and I was this little runt running around there trying to be strong and trying to conquer diabetes. And that's really, that is really the truth. That's what really pushed me into, wanting to be strong, because I felt very weak on the inside, and I still feel weak on the inside. I'm not like you, Ed. I don't have a pancreas that works. And it will never, right now, it doesn't work, and it hasn't worked since I was 12, but I didn't want to ever feel weak. So what do you think I did? I overcompensated. I made sure that whoever looked at me would never think I had diabetes. and put everything I had into making sure that you would never think I was sick, and that's the story. And I think when you talk to other bodybuilders, they will say a similar thing. They have a story. They mean, I want to share it, but they have a story. Women that do this, that put, as much effort into the gym and push the weights and go through the pain and deal with, maybe society's norms of, what a woman should look like, they do it for a reason. And that really is my purpose, and why I became a bodybuilder and why it makes me feel so empowered and how it really gave me, changed my life.
Well, that makes two of us, because you had mentioned that you said that I have a pancreas that works, but we have one thing in common. We both have type 1 diabetes as well. Matter of fact, I was diagnosed with it at the age of 14. Matter of fact, my freshman year of high school. So that definitely makes two of us. And you talked about how...
I did not know that, Ed. I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned about how this ailment hit close to home because of your father being diagnosed with it, and then you would have it a little bit later. I have an aunt that had it and several family members that have it as well. So I tell you one thing, diabetes is just like that. It's like the fight that never ends, but it's getting better in terms of the technology with the medicine, and also things are becoming so much better. I wish the education would have been better, with your father, and then also with my aunt and other family members. I wish they would have gotten the proper education necessary. And there's so many advancements have been made.
Yeah, if my father had a CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor, wow, it would have been life-changing for him. And I get often teary-eyed knowing where I'm at right now, and I'm sure you can relate to where we are in the world of type 1 diabetes. And wow, the advancements are, we're not, hey, a cure is a real advancement, but, just the fact I don't have to test my finger every day, and I'm wearing a CGM, and I know where my blood sugar is all the time, and, there's better insulins, there's, inhaled insulin now, there's longer-acting insulin, there's better controlled, IQ pumps that are now doing more closed loop. My dad needed all these things, and unfortunately he passed at 64, really just due to the detrimental effects of high blood sugar and what it can do to the human body is just unbelievable. So I often have done podcasts about insulin and how strongly I feel about it, even as an anti-aging. That's a whole other conversation, and one that I know I need to do an update on, because there's a lot of new data that I do want to speak about when it comes to GLP-1s, which are glucose-like peptide 1. These are basically peptides, but they're secreted by the gut, and they are also otherwise known as Ozempic, Mounjaro, retatrutide's coming out, Bydureon, Trulicity, Victoza. There's a list of them. The new data is pretty prolific in terms of where we're going in the future with these, in terms of preventing type 2 diabetes. And there's a very big, there's a lot of studies that are done, peer-reviewed journals, on how it proliferates the beta cell. And if you are newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, a little one about 5 years old is actually, I think he's got to be around 8, because he's in the Tesleide, which is a monoclonal antibody that he gets infused. So if you're newly diagnosed, you can get an infusion of a monoclonal antibody for 14 days for 30 minutes, and it actually does reverse the autoimmunity. And we're seeing that it can delay the onset now for 3-5 years. And on top of that, we believe in a GLP-1. So what a GLP-1 is doing, and it's not approved for type 1, and it's very unfortunate, it does proliferate the beta cell, so it stops apoptosis. So apoptosis is the death of the beta cell. We know by autoimmunity, but if you can get in there while you're on a monoclonal antibody, we can further prolong or hopefully delay forever the onset of the disease. So, but this is, not talked about, but it is in journals. It is being studied. It is real. However, it's just so behind the science. You know what I mean? But I often recommend for all my type 1s that it's not about GLP-1s. Everybody's talking about, weight loss and you look great. Yes, that's true. It does a lot of things in terms of weight, but it does a lot of things in terms of what it's doing metabolically, in terms of burning visceral fat, increasing brown fat, reducing insulin resistance, helping just kind of keep the postprandial blood sugars at bay. And that is something that can benefit a type 1. However, no indication, and no insurance company will cover it for type 1, but I work in a practice where we go through hoops. We do what we need to do, what's right for the patient, until the indication is there for type 1. There's enough studies to support it, So, yeah, anyway, I just, there's all these great things that are going on in the world of diabetes, and it's such my wheelhouse, and that's really what drove me from my bodybuilding career, which I really walked away from competition in 2014, and we can discuss those reasons why, to practice medicine. I went to nursing school. I started that in 2015. It's taken me 10 years. It's unbelievable, but I had to take all my prerequisites again. That is all your math and sciences. That's AP 1 and 2. That's chemistry. That's microbiome. It's just everything. I don't even, when I thought back, I actually did it. I did it. I took all that. Then I went to nursing school, and now I'm in NP. So I've been in school for 10 years, and I have quite a following in terms of really, really prolific treatment of diabetes, even those that are in the bodybuilding world that I've seen have this fasting glucose intolerance, which we oftentimes just brush under the rug. And what's really happening is bodybuilders that have taken copious amounts of growth hormone or, just the eating. Type 2 diabetes is about basically burning out the beta cell. As a person trying to be 300 pounds, you are going to put a lot of pressure on your beta cell. You are going to have insulin resistance, and most likely you're going to have the onset of what would otherwise be type 2, which now we're categorizing different, but they need treatment. They need, we need to be aggressive with these patients, and these are people that, were once bodybuilders or what have you, but I really hope to have a different, just a really different platform to really kind of attack blood sugar on not only just the surface level, but really on an anti-aging level. Insulin's never the enemy. It's always our friend. We just have to understand it. And there's a lot of misinformation about insulin. We look at it as the enemy, and I'm sure you know that. I mean, everybody's like, oh my God, insulin, it's going to kill you. But we know so much more about how to use it and how to, appropriately take it, that it's safer than we think. That's what and to put it mildly, just use, correctly. So, you got to evolve as a human. I think it's great. I love these women that are still competing in their 50s and such, but it comes to a point where I don't know, I saw more for myself than just spending 3 hours in the gym, and it felt there was one moment when my last show in 2014, when I switched to women's physique, and I was like, just so self-centered, I don't know if I can spend 3 hours, for the rest of my life. And believe me, I love it. It's wonderful, but and this is it, I mean, there's so much more I want to do, and it was time. It was time. I had a ton of injuries that if I can't train the way I need to train, even though you can look good on the outside by training like however you want to train, but I, was a very, very strong. I lifted as heavy as I possibly could. It's just how I love to train, which got me into trouble. If I just couldn't train the way I needed to train, I just wanted to just get away from the mind, what it took me to get in the gym every day, because it was like every workout was balls to the walls. There was a point where I just want to go in there and just have fun. Because every workout was so intense for me, and that type of mental energy was stopping me from achieving other things. I know that sounds crazy, but we all have our own mind games that we play in our head, and it was hard to walk away that first year of 2015, but that's when I started school, and I started directing myself and saying, it's okay to miss a day, Colette. It's okay. And it never felt okay. Like, I never allowed myself that. I mean, I was a 6-day, sometimes 7-day a week. I was a complete overtrainer. I didn't care. I had my own set of rules, and no one could talk to me. No one could talk to me. I could do it. I'm different. I can do anything, and I didn't listen to my body, and ended up with 5 shoulder surgeries. And not a lot of people know this, but I had a shoulder replacement. My right shoulder I couldn't get it right. I couldn't get out of pain for 10 years. I mean, couldn't do it. And I was really sick of it. And I think when I walked away from competition, when I just knew that that's it, it's not going to happen again. I'm not going to get on stage again. I was like, just do it, and that's a big decision to make in your 40s. You know what I mean? Like, that is a young woman to be getting a shoulder replacement, but I was so sick of it. 5 shoulder surgeries. I'm still in pain. Enough. Like, I just want to sleep. You know what I mean? So that was a big decision, and that was a big turnaround for me in terms of what working out looks like now. You know what I mean? What it looks like now. Different. Very different than what it was, 5 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, I can only imagine. have it. And like you said, you're so young to have a shoulder replacement surgery like that. I mean, like I said before, you really worked hard, and you, even though you admitted yourself, overtraining and things of that nature, you certainly paid a price for it and still being in pain. We're going to get all into, injuries and all of that in just a little bit, but I want to piggyback just to your upbringing, growing up in the suburbs of Detroit and just growing up specifically in Royal Oak, Michigan. What were some of the things that you learned from your humble Midwestern upbringing, just in terms of, you mentioned about your dad, you developed that your dad was a workaholic, but you developed his work ethic. What were some of the other things that you developed in terms of having that humble Midwestern upbringing?
I think anybody that meets me and knows me, I am just kind. It's almost to a fault. I really empathize with what everybody's going through. And I really never looked at myself, or I looked at everybody as a human, and I love that I'm able to, I never saw, I dated all across the board. You name it, because I find people interesting, and it was interesting because I grew up in a very, Midwestern, all-white community, and I was friends with kind of the odd people, not being that, even somebody that was kind of a little slow. I remember that, he ended up being actually really my tutor, and we're still friends to this day. And he was kind of like a high functioning Asperger's. And then, the kids that were of different ethnicities, I don't know. I was always it's weird. And I don't know. I just kind of felt like I needed to reach out. Needed to understand different types of people and how they just kind of navigate through the world, even as a young little kid, And, my parents were just, I was lucky to have I didn't have a broken home. I had a happy mom and dad, and they were strict. I'm not going to, listen, they were strict, but in a way that allowed me to, if you have parents that just act like they cared, I knew they loved me. I think that made a difference too. I just knew there was so much love, and I think I get sad when I hear kids growing up in broken households, and they don't, because love is so important, It really is to feel loved and to feel appreciated, and that you can conquer the world. I was, my family always told me, even having diabetes, I think that obviously altered a lot of but I think they really realized, you are going to do everything. This is going to make you a stronger kid. Think about it. No other kid's doing what you're doing. So if you can do this, Colette, I remember those words, you can do anything. And I always feel like kids need to be taught that. That really, you can do anything. Human beings are incredible. We've built bridges and skyscrapers, and we've done incredible things. So why are we limiting ourselves? I feel so many people limit themselves into their greatness. And I was just raised with the idea that really life is all yours to conquer. You can do anything. And that was just something that was just part of my existence, and it's a really kind of humble beginning,
You're absolutely right about that. It's just people really limit themselves, but man, if they see that greatness and that potential in them, man, they really can do anything in life, not just in athletics, but really with education or one of your fields in medicine, just anything in life, man, they can really make the difference. And it's certainly, regardless of diabetes or any obstacles or whatever, man, you still can achieve not just a dream, but many dreams. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think we are limitless human beings, and everybody, even though you're not the smartest or you're not the prettiest or you're not we all have something. I just believe it. You might be this artist or a musician, or you can do hair, nails. You have whether it's become skill or you hone a talent, you know what I mean? If you do something over and over again, long enough, you know what I mean? You can become great at it. And so I feel that, really anybody listening, I went back to school, when I was literally 40. Come on. And I just said, I'm going to be, I had to see the grand scheme of things and just decide. Just decide what you're going to do and do it. And that is really something I did. I decided I was going to get a pro card. And I did it because I wasn't going to stop until I did it. You know what I mean? So it's you just decide. I decide I'm going to be a nurse practitioner. I'm going to do it. It is insane. And no one would, I mean, there's very few that would want to go back and do all your prerequisites. That's why no one does it, when you've later in life, it's like, oh my God, make that decision. You just decide and then you do it. And guess what? I want to tell everybody listening to this. I should have done med school, but I didn't believe I could do it. And guess what? I know you can do it. Anybody can do anything. I mean, it's just doing it. I mean, school has been very hard, and but guess what? You read the paper, you summarize it, and you write it. You know what I mean? And there are people to help you too. There's always resources to help. I mean, I really realized that there's nothing off limits. If I wanted to be a lawyer, I could just, it's just a matter of studying. I don't think it's out of anybody's scope. There are a lot of doctors that are not that smart. I know that now because I'm smarter than they. I mean, I'm not trying to say that, but they're just not. They just studied and they passed exams. So it's really, it's a limitless world out there. You just have to believe it. You have to start and you have to decide. And then once you decide, you don't quit ever. You
Absolutely.
just keep going. Yeah, just keep going.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's just, that's the beauty of life. You can begin again. You can start something.
Again.
And you can start something, and hey, you finish it, and guess what? You got more skills, you got more talents. You can always begin again. It's as simple as that. You summarized that beautifully.
Yeah, that's really, there's no, life is right there for you to seize it. You know what I mean? Life is right there for you to seize it. And so, yeah, that really kind of was my whole, from, really in high school to what I achieved in high school to what I achieved in college at Michigan State, and I just dreamt bigger than I felt most people. I did feel like that. I dreamt bigger. I always wanted to, I didn't want to believe that things weren't, I just wanted to believe anything was possible. I wanted to live in New York, and my parents you're not going to live in New York. Oh my God, it's so scary. I'm no, I'm going to do that. And I applied for an internship when I was in college for my nutrition. And I ended up in New York, because that's where I wanted to be. I manifested that whole thing. I got my internship at NYU, and here I was, on a plane at 20 years old, living in the East Village, 7th Street, 2nd Avenue, was it was kind of seedy area back in the 90s, and loved every minute of it. Loved every minute of the pain of going up 7-8 flights of stairs, of a 150 square foot apartment, no kidding. I mean, paying way too much for rent. And just wondering, wow, I hope it, I mean, how, this is it, right? I hope not, right? And I figured these are my humble beginnings, and I'm going to one day own an apartment. I manifest. It's so weird because I want everything, and I want everybody to know none of this was easy. I mean, no one said here you go. You know what I mean? All of it was blood, sweat, and tears. From competing, I had type 1 diabetes. Competing as a type 1 diabetic was challenging as hell. I mean, I injected insulin 22 times a day. I didn't want to wear a pump, so it was 22 shots a day because I mixed Humalog with Humulin R to make a dual wave bolus. At the time, there was no Tresiba, so I took Lantus 3 or 4 times a day. I took Simlin, which I want to talk about later on in another life because I think we're going to be using it in different combinations with these GLP-1s, but I use Simlin, which is amylin, which suppresses the alpha cell to reduce glucagon to help me with just basically appetite suppression and also to kind of reduce the spike of the insulin. I mean, Simlin's a great additive to any type 1 and refining type 2. But it was 22 shots a day. None of this was easy, you know what I mean? But I was going to do it, So nothing was easy there. Nothing was easy. I've reinvented myself so many times, from when I was this little Midwestern girl, going to Michigan State, that was, like a little step different. But from this little Midwestern girl moving to New York City in the middle of East Village. So, I mean, reinvention, then reinventing myself when I was a professional bodybuilder and what that looked like. And then reinventing myself from leaving a world of professional bodybuilder and a stage that I was on. I did everything bodybuilding. I mean, it was everything. I mean, I did all my whole life for 10 years with competitions, makeup, hair, tanning, music, to contest prep. I mean, my God, my whole life was bodybuilding. And then to walk away from that, and I walked away, literally, I haven't even gone to a show in so long because I stepped into a totally different world, which was really academia, I didn't ever abandon training. I trained still 6 days a week. I mean, it's still who I am. I'll always identify with that no matter what. It is who I am. And when I see people that have trained and they stop training, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I train like I'm going to have a competition next week. So my training's nowhere near what it used to be, but it's always in the back of my head. I mean, I always train with that intent because it's who I am. It's what makes me feel like a whole, like a human, So walking away from that into academia and stepping onto, I'm wearing a lab jacket. They call me doctor all the time, even though I'm not, but nurse practitioners oftentimes get, we're so close, you know what I mean, to the doctor role. But it's been a cool life, you know what I mean? Because it's in phases, like my like you said, my childhood and what it was like with my parents and Midwest, and it's all simple and it's all safe and everything's safe about the Midwest, which is I like to be unsafe. I like to be challenged. I like to fall. Let me fall. Kick me to the ground. Beat me up, Take me all the way down to my knees because I will get back up. And when I do get back up, I'm going to be stronger, and that's really what I learned through all of it, is, there's that quote by, I think it was Sylvester Stallone, life is going to beat you to your knees. It's going to take you down to the ground. But who are you, to get up and fight back, and that a lot of people don't. They just stay down there. For what? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to get kicked down again? You just keep climbing, So that was, how it's always been. Nothing's been real easy. There's been a lot of, crazy challenges, and somehow you're going to persevere, right? Because what other choice do you have? I always say that. What are my options? My options are either, you stay where you're at, which is, maybe not such a comfortable place, or you get out of it and you figure out how you're going to do that. And it's not always easy, but, the other side of it is pretty incredible,
Yeah, absolutely. You're right about that. And I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying about just, the way you still train. Of course, it's still in the back of your mind. You just still have that competitive nature and that competitive fire that you want to go ahead and, attack it at all costs. And certainly it's very important that you may not be competing anymore, but you still have that drive and that competitive nature. You just want to stay on top of it. And speaking of your competitive nature and having that drive, I want to talk now just about your introduction to the sport of bodybuilding. How were you introduced to the sport?
Oh my gosh. So here I am. I started lifting when I was, like around 12, pretty serious at 14. I lifted all through high school. I actually taught aerobics at a Backwall Fitness when shouldn't have been taught. I lied and said I was 18 because you're not supposed to be teaching 14. I don't know. It was crazy, but they let me do it because I was really good. Then I get to college. I ran an intramural aerobic program there. I started lifting more. And then when I moved to New York, I met a young gentleman, and he and I we were dating, and he was competing in all these natural shows out here in New York. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. You know what I mean? I'm like, I never really thought about competing. I came to New York I finished my master's degree, and then I wanted to become a professional dancer, to be honest with you. That was, I was so ballsy. I would go up to Dance 10, which is on Broadway, and pay $10 and dance with the real dancers, the dancers that are in casts and, Les Mis. I mean, these are the hardcore, the best dancers in the world, really. And I'd be there, and I'm like, here I am, little Midwestern girl, and you're going to find me, and I'm going to be dancing at the Les Mis. I really thought this stuff. I'm telling you, I had no fear. Fear, forget about it. I don't have it because, fear is all in your head. It doesn't exist. What is fear? I just went there. I was front row like an idiot. I don't even know who would do that, but I would stand front row in front of all the dancers. They're like, who is this? 21 years old. Like, who did I think I was, And then I'd go across the room, So I thought that's what I was going to do. And then I meet this little bodybuilder, and he's like, I think you should do this. And I'm like, really? So I did the diet. I'm like, well, I'm studying to be I'm a nutrition, So I did the diet and everything. I got in really great shape, 100% natural. I didn't even think people did drugs. I had no idea. I was so naive. I thought, like, ooh, no one does that, So, and he was doing all natural shows, so he and I were competing, and I won, like, everything. I could not lose, I was like, wow. So I really stopped dancing as much, and I started focusing on the gym. Like, I'm like, wow, this is kind of fun, So I just started training really bodybuilding style, like taking it real seriously. 1 body part a day. I would really start working on my strength and, focus on really creating a body out of art, just like, okay, my legs needed to be, weren't as good as my upper body, and I had to figure out how to really kind of fine tune everything to create this beautiful X frame. And So that's really how it started, and I was just all in the natural circuit, winning everything. I had so many trophies. I don't even know where they all are, because in transporting them from place to place, I've lived in so many places. I mean, it's so sad, but they got lost in storage. I had so many of them. You know, I had the ones that matter. Believe me, I have the ones from the Olympia and the Arnold class. Those are the ones that matter, but I just had a ridiculous amount because I just couldn't lose. And then I was like, well, I got to do the NPC. And this was about 24, I guess, you know. And I was like, I think I'm ready. And I remember meeting some bodybuilders that were pretty hardcore at the time. And Johnny Latz, anybody in New York that's listening, Johnny Latz, they know where that is. They know where now it's Complete Body, but it used to be 19th Street Gym, which is Brian Moss's old gym right there on 19th Street. These were hardcore places. And I would, you know, meet some of these guys and they're like, listen, you're good, but you're going to do the NPC Nationals. You're going to have to start taking steroids. I'm like, what? I mean, I was like, are you kidding me? And I go, I would never do that. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I can't do that. There's no way. You know what I mean? I was like, I just, you know, I was like, that's not going to happen, you know? And, you know, they were just telling me, like, they were being honest. You know, you're up against the best, and this is what's going on, you know? I'm like, really? Because I was coming from a very natural circuit, and, you know, we did, you know, silly little lie detectors, which who knows if people were, but I knew I was 100% natural. I knew what I stood for at the time. You know what I mean? I was, you know, I do think insulin was a benefit, to be honest with you. I will always say that, and I think if you look at insulin and the way I was in such tight control, it is the most anabolic hormone in the human body. I do believe I was very, very strong. We do know now that Olympians do take insulin. It increases glycogen storage, so glycogen storage and protein turnover. If you have ability to synergize glycogen, it increases the water and the fluid into the muscle. It's a stronger muscle because I was ridiculously strong at such a young age. I mean, this is where the problems with my shoulders came. I was benching 315 by 22. I mean, you know, these are real stories, you know what I mean? I could row a 150-pound dumbbell. I mean, I was unusually, so I could curl 135 pounds, 45, with no problem whatsoever. 15 reps was not, it was a joke. I deadlift, you know, 500. I was just, it wasn't hard. You know what I mean? I didn't get into powerlifting, but I should have, but I've done, you know, pros versus pros. And I mean, people know how strong I am. It's not, I mean, not so much anymore because I have an injury, but, yeah, I mean, I just knew that a lot of that came from insulin. Just if you're poorly controlled, you're not going to get any benefits, okay? So anybody listening, insulin's not the cure-all, be-all, but I was very tightly controlled, and I was very good with my food, and I ate a lot of protein, so being that, you know, insulin is what it is, the most anabolic hormone in the human body, just the case, you know? So anyway, I do feel like I had some just innate benefits from just how I trained and how I ate and, you know, the fact that I was in such good control of my sugar, but that idea was like, wow, that's crazy, you know? So then I, you know, went to nationals in, oh God, when was that? It was 2000. In 1999, I did the Team Universe, which is a 100% natural show, just so we all know. I did not, you know, I didn't think that people did these things, you know? So Team Universe, I remember, was drug tested. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Because I can compete at that level. I just will do the drug-tested shows. You know, there's only one. So I did that one, and I won. And then I thought, let me do that in the Nationals. So that year I did the Nationals, 2000. I was ripped to the bone. I have these pictures. I was so skinny. I was 132 pounds. I competed at like 145, 148. So 100% natural. On an NPC stage with 38, I'll never forget this stuff. 38 women were on that stage. These are things that you don't forget because it was so crazy. And the Nationals were huge back then. I mean, just huge. 6th place. It's unbelievable. I missed top 5 by one. I would have been, you know, it was 100% natural. And I was just such a cute look, you know what I mean? A little tiny waist, and I wasn't big, you know what I mean? But I had such good proportions, and, you know, I beat people out that weren't as good a shape. And it was a really wild experience. I was like, wow, I did that on literally creatine, glutamine, tight blood sugar control. I mean, like, knowing my diet. I was really on bullshit, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I was like, wow, okay. Well, I might have a future in this, you know what I mean? And it becomes addicting. I walked away from dance, which is sad. I never really, you know, I would take dance classes just because I did a lot of choreography, but I walked away from the idea of ever being a professional dancer, which is, you know, what it was, you know what I mean? And I ended up being a professional bodybuilder. So I think between the trade, I was happy with the choice I made. I mean, I loved the journey. I loved every bit about And I can see why women still do it. You hold on to it because it's so much love and it's so much, oh my God, it really is just talking about it. It's a huge smile, from year to year. I loved every bit of it, every single year, every bit of it, every competition, every moment, the good and the bad and the ugly with it, So yeah, that's really how it all began. If Domingo's listening, he knows who he is. He's my inspiration to bodybuilding, really. He is still a natural competitor to this day, 100%. I know this to be 100%. We are very, very good friends. He would never do that to his body. He has an amazing physique and has been accused of doing drugs his whole life, and I know different because I was with him for 6 years. He would never do it, So he was always a big player with all the, HMB and glutamine and creatine and all that. He was just a supplement lunatic. He just tried all the natural things, and he did very well for himself, though. He's a good person and did very well in all the natural muscle manias.
Awesome. And it definitely, he was definitely influential in your career, and definitely it's nice to hear that he's still doing amazing things in the world of bodybuilding, respectfully. You mentioned about during your career so many accomplishments and so many titles that you've won. I got to ask you, do you remember the first contest that you won?
So it was it was one of the NGA, was that Natural Gym Association. NGA, I don't even know if they exist anymore, so who knows, right? The NGA, and it was down in Yonkers, which is upstate New York, and it was a little rinky-dink show, and I won. And that was where it all started, with the NGA. And I became a pro with the National Gym Association. And, I realized that had very little significance in the world, right? Because these little natural, but they're great. I don't want to say that about anything, but in terms of respect, right, you had to compete in the NPC. So, me being, right, who I am, that was just the beginning, right? And then that would have to translate into something much bigger. So you start here and you can go anywhere. And that was really kind of how it all began. I just competed in that circuit. I did really well. And I said, it's got to be something different, right? And that's when I did the first NPC show with the Team Universe, 1998. Yep, Team Universe. That was my first NPC show, and that woke me up to a whole new level, you know what I mean? And then the NPC Nationals 2000, and that was a big deal, you know what I mean? That was what really, that's what sealed the deal that I was going for it and I was going to get my pro card.
Oh, man, that's what's up. Well, everybody has to start somewhere, and certainly that was the beginning of the stepping stone to what you achieved in your career, in your athletic career specifically. And while we're still talking about bodybuilding for a moment, you mentioned about having a shoulder replacement surgery and how you still feel pain in your shoulder, with your right shoulder specifically. But I want to start off with this question. How often did you train for competitions? Like, how many hours and days a week would you devote to training for competitions?
So it was interesting because, I was lucky in the sense that at the time when I got really serious at the NPC level, so I started my own offshoot business, which was, I said, how am I going to take care of myself? I'm a registered dietitian, and I was a diabetes educator. So I had, I did a lot of side gigs in that line because I always kept all my certifications, everything, my licenses, everything up to date. But then I just said, hey, I am going to become the girl. You know what I mean? I'm going to be the hair makeup girl. I'm going to be the everything girl. So I was doing websites. What couldn't I do? When you say jack of all trades, think about it. Hair, makeup, tanning. I was a choreographer. I could mix music. I did websites. I was all this is all outside of my scope of being a registered dietitian. And I did contest prep. So I prep people for shows. So, truly, like when I tell you, life is limitless, And then I was able to train. So I would get up in the morning. I would do my cardio. I would train for an hour. Sometimes I did 2 a day. So that was 2 hours there. And then I would do cardio again at night. So I loved to be in the gym. It was like 3-4 hours a day, which is totally, I train 45 minutes and sometimes I feel like I look better now, I put so much, but it's, obviously it was just a totally different world. I was training for a real serious purpose, and So, I mean, at the heart of it, I think the most, was like, really the heart of competition was like 4 hours, you know what I mean? But, which honestly, you need an hour in the gym. I was an overtrainer. I mean, you're talking to somebody like, don't listen to me. I love to be there. So, cardio in the morning, cardio at night, and, train, mid-morning, go back there for like accessory muscles. I mean, unbelievable. But listen, I mean, I wanted to be the absolute best I could be. I wanted to learn as much. I wanted to push my body to the absolute, I really thought I was invincible. I did. I thought it was different. I thought I was just wired differently. When I didn't have any injuries, I didn't have any injuries. And then when I started getting them, it's a slippery slope. I really believe that. Once you get one injury, you start compensating, and you're sitting there, you're in a very slippery slope because your body will compensate for the ailments, and you will create more injuries. You know what I mean? So, and that's kind of what happened. But, that's really how my training was. And it was a body part a day or accessory muscles. If I was doing chest in the morning, and maybe I would do, calves and forearms. I mean, I would find any excuse to train, Then, Tuesday would be back, and then in the afternoon I might be abs or something, or I would teach an aerobic class. That's out of my mind. I was really out of my mind. The amount of energy I have is unbelievable, and anybody that knows me, you have to be on something. I take no fat burners whatsoever. I never did my entire career. It raised my blood sugar, so I never took a pre-workout. I do not drink coffee. I do not take any amphetamines. Amphetamines for a person with type 1 diabetes will create a fight or flight response and will increase their blood sugar. Didn't do it. Don't take Adderall. Don't do Ritalin. I've tried those things just as an experiment because I'm a human guinea pig and I wanted to see what those did to my blood sugar. Not a good idea. So you have to compensate for more insulin. I'm like, forget it, not doing it. So I literally live off of pure energy, pure. Like I wake up in the morning, drink my water. I do an apple cider vinegar, lemon, turmeric, ginger kind of nonsense cocktail that I make every single morning. That's what I drink. I believe in super hydration. I drink, just keep drinking and then get to the gym. That's all I need. I don't do any of it. So, and I really, really believe that we are adrenal fatigued. Don't believe in these things. I just think that they're going to work against you on many levels. You start here, and you're going to keep needing more and more and more. And they're very addictive, and then you need them. I need nothing. I just need to get up in the morning. I don't need coffee. I don't need anything. Give me water, and I'm good, So, yeah, I believe in total pure energy, and that's how I did my whole bodybuilding career. I was the only idiot that did not drink salt. No, it was, I was as hardcore as they came. Yeah, it's hard to keep up with me. I mean, I trained with only men. I didn't like to train with girls because no one would really keep up. And I could go head to head with a lot of guys. And the guys that have trained with me, they know that what I'm saying is true, I could lift 100-pound dumbbells, absolutely no problem. And I went to 130. That's how I hurt myself. But I really thought I could lift anything. I mean, hundreds were a joke. So I was like, let's go to 110. Joke. I have that on an Instagram post, like on incline. No one has to stop me. Just, you know what I mean? Then I did 100-pound shoulder presses. That was a fun video. I had my really skinny friend. She's like, can't lift 5 pounds. I said, for a joke, just look like you're spotting me. And like, she can't do anything. And I was lifting the 100-pound dumbbell presses. And, it was a kind of a funny video, because they knew she couldn't spot me. I obviously could do them on my own. But it was, it was to a demise. It was absolutely to demise. It sounds great. It sounds like bragging rights or whatever, but not so much because I could have preserved my body had I not thought that every single workout you have to keep going heavier and heavier and heavier until, eventually your joints aren't going to be able to do it. You know what I mean? And something's going to give. And that's really what started happening, and I kept wanting to chase being strong. I loved being strong. I loved being strong sometimes more than I loved the look that it achieved because it was deeper than that for me. It was deeper. It went back to the little kid that was 12 years old that was sick. Do you know what I mean? So it was deeper, so much more psychological for me. And when I didn't feel strong, I felt weak. And that is really like the therapy session that we're having right now is really what brought me down. And I had somebody could have just taken me back. You're doing this crazy ish. And I empathize with Ronnie. When I watched Ronnie, I saw myself in him. I cried during that entire thing about the king. I literally cried. And I easily, I trained the way I mean, I know I'm not Ronnie. I'll never be Ronnie, but he would deadlift right before a show. So would I. Didn't care. 2 weeks out from a show, could care less. I'm like in there deadlifting 400 or 500. It's stupid. It's pure stupid. Like, what am I doing? But I could do it. So I just did it. You know what I mean? And these are the things that, like, are just dumb. You know, they're really dumb and couldn't listen to anybody. Anybody tried to talk to me. There was no talking to me. That's how I trained. And if you were going to train with me, you were going to train like it was your last workout. And you have to, like I told you, it was the mental strain of that. And I couldn't get that out of my head. And then, you know, it's all what it is, you know. The shoulders, just, those were the things that really just, man, the injuries just, wow. You know, the heavy pressing is going to get you. You know, I was benching too heavy, and I was, you know, dumbbells 130s. I mean, come on. I mean, that was bad. That was what hurt me. Somebody spotted me at the wrist. I could have done. I can do it. You know, I could do it. I said, please spot me at the elbows, and I took the 130s back, flat bench, and he grabbed me at and I couldn't feel it, and the arm just overstretched. I mean, 130 pounds came down, stretched out my shoulder went, whoo, and that tore the entire labrum. I mean, the labrum was gone. Both of my shoulders had no labrum. So I never fixed it because I was like, oh, no, I'm just going to. So that all scarred over, and then that just created more and more arthritis, you know. Like, I should have fixed the labrums. I didn't. Tore both bicep tendons. I mean, those are freaking gone. I mean, those snapped one right off and then snapped the other. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So the shoulder is just falling apart at the seams, you know, and then they're going and fixing in the bicep tendon and scraping off all the arthritis. And then, you know, eventually the shoulder looks like absolute dog shit, you know what I mean? So the left one I got back somewhat, you know what I mean? Bicep tendinosis, acromioplasty. The left one feels decent, pretty range of motion, but the right one, that one happened later. You know, the left one I got fixed up, but remember, one injury leads to another. I overcompensated for years on this right side because the left side was so bad. So then the right side was taking a beating, and I kept going, I did everything for that right side, man. I did stem cells, PRP, ART, you know, chiropractic. I mean, the amount of money I spent on that right shoulder for 10 years to stay in the game was unbelievable. Hyaluronic acid shots. I mean, I did everything off label. You name it. Yeah, I'd done it, you know. And it kept me going for 10 years. So I competed another, you know, during the time the right shoulder was not feeling great. And then, you know, it just was like 45. I was just like, this thing is freaking killing me. I mean, I would cry during my workouts. I could still lift, though. I could still do 100-pound dumbbells 5 years ago. But, like, I was like, tears would come out of my eyes. Like, but I didn't care. And I would do it, and I went to my orthopedic, and that's when we did bicep tendinosis 5 years ago on the right. And I came back and it said, still hurts. He's like, are you still lifting 100-pound dumbbells? I said, yeah. He goes, well, stop lifting the 100-pound dumbbells. I said, I'm not doing it. So I told him, I said, I'm not doing it. You're gonna fix me so that I can do the 100-pound dumbbells. He's like, I wouldn't listen to the guy. He's like, so I doctor shopped, and I convinced people to do what I want them to do. And so he's like, you need to get therapy. Like, you could have this shoulder the rest of your life, Colette. Just, why don't you lift 60 pounds? You know what I mean? And I'm like, nope, because I can do 100. So I'm not doing 60. That's bullshit weight. You know what I mean? So I didn't listen. So I went to somebody else who did my left shoulder in Michigan, by the way, who's a lovely doctor. He cleaned out my right again. And he's like, look, he opened up space. He took too much off the clavicle, which he admitted to, but he thought he'd give me more space in there and then on a lifter. So he thought, let me just give her more space because everything was just so impinged. Worse. I mean, that was the beginning of the end. I should have left it, you know, when I just did the bicep tendinosis and it hurt, but I could still lift and I could have just backed off and I'd have been having this conversation with you. My shoulder's still my shoulder, you know? And then, oh no, nope. It was bad. I couldn't even sleep. Now it was worse, you know? And I'm like thinking I was okay with the bicep tendinosis sucked, but I couldn't train right. Now I can't even sleep. And now I literally can't even train. Like, it's killing me. Everything's killing me. So what am I supposed to do? You know, I identify myself as somebody that lifts. Every time I lift, it's killing. I mean, I couldn't even do things like, I couldn't do anything. Like, even trying to squat, couldn't squat because I couldn't get the shoulder back. I couldn't hold the weights of dumbbell squat because that hurt. Couldn't stipulate deadlift, that hurt. I mean, everything hurt. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? I totally ruined my life, like by this surgery. And I saw him and he's like, Colette, listen, you know, let's go on, you know, you have inflammation, let's do cortisone shot, which I hate doing. And I'm like, fine, I'll do it. No relief. Like zero. I'm like, that didn't help at all. And so what happens is when you exhaust every possible way to get out of pain, we're talking cortisone, I did hyaluronic acid, we did the clean out. I mean, what else is there to do? There's nothing to do. You have to get a replacement. I mean, you know what I mean? There's no other option that I had. I exhausted everything except to stop lifting. So I was like, well, I'm not going to stop lifting. So, what do I got to do? And so then I reached out to actually, it's at Westside Barbell in Ohio, and he passed, Lou Simmons. He had a it's an arthrosurface, which is a less invasive but invasive shoulder replacement, which I was going to do a ream and run, which was by Dr. Matson out in Washington. All the way out there, he's the inventor of the ream and run, which is what Hope Solo did, where they're just reaming the glenoid and you're putting a head on the humerus. I was going to do that, and really in retrospect, I wish I did, but I did a newer version of that, which is still kind of experimental. It's only 10 years old, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it because I'm hard-headed. And they ream the inside of the glenoid, which is where the lip, that's where the ball sits in, and they put a little, what they call kind of it offsets it. It's a little circular polyethylene. It's not going to take up the whole glenoid because that's what was the failure rate, right? I knew I'd cause a failure rate because it fails at the glenoid, not at the humeral head. So I did this kind of modified ream and run. Look, I love the guy. The bodybuilder, he was a bodybuilder that did my surgery. He's amazing. Everybody's different. And we all, don't always respond the same as others. And also, I'm so unique because he's never worked on a female before. He did lifters. And I was concerned when I did the surgery. I said, well, do you have things? I'm very little. My joints are super, super little. My bones are really small. And he had to put the smallest one in. And truly, I believe it's just a little overfitted. It's overstuffed. Anybody listening knowing this is a very common problem. But that was the smallest one they could fit because this is a new surgery and they don't have all the different millimeters. So it's just a little too big in the joint. And I'm not going in there again. I'm just not. I can do everything. I just can't press. It's really sad because, I know you mentioned in there you want to talk about my favorite body part. My favorite body part was chest. I could lift anything. Pressing was my jam. Pressing is no longer my jam. It's hard. It's hard to deal with. I know it's not, I can do pull-ups. I can do things that other people that have shoulder replacements can't do because I have technically the shoulder replacement I have, there are no modifications. You can do whatever you want because the glenoid is not messed up. The glenoid doesn't have a lip on it. It's free to put the ball in there. So you can really, he had no limitations on me. My limitations are that I just can't do it, So I went from pressing just anything and everything from shoulder presses to chest presses to, pretty bad. It's pretty almost embarrassing to talk about. I'll do it. It doesn't feel great, but I can do it. But I, can do everything else. So I look at it like, look, I can do everything else. I just can't really press, You have to, I still look fine. The shoulders, I can do everything, laterals, fronts, rears. Upright rows, I can do all that. Shoulder presses, it's got to be on a machine, and it's got to be modified. It's got to be close grip. The joints got to be closer together. I can't be too wide. Same with chest. It's got to be tighter. I got to get it tight to my body. So I do what I can, for any presses. I'm not doing anything big for those at all, So the idea of going back in on a sixth surgery, I'm not doing it. I'm just not. I got to again evolve. I'm a person like earlier saying I would never say never. That there's no such word as can't, but there's also being logical and there's also being a sane individual and realizing, I got the shoulder replacement. I can sleep at night. I have no pain at night. I have no pain during the day. I can train back. I can train legs. I can train arms. I can train, shoulders. I just can't press. It's like, it's got to be a machine. It's pretty sad, and it's what it is. I still do it. I still train chest day. I did what I could do, and I go through the workout, and I do what I would have done, but I just can't lift half the weight. Not even half. It's less than half, but it's all right. I still look good, and I still identify myself as, the dedicated soul that does what I need to do, that makes me feel good and, at peace with my soul. And that's training. That's training.
You're absolutely right about that. And even though with you having the multiple surgeries, we still find ways to modify the training, just have to work, as they say, work around the kinks. And that's certainly what you've done and what you've continued to do with your training and stuff. And like you said, even though you can't lift as heavy as you used to, you still make ways to train your chest and train other areas to make sure you get that full workout. And I just want to get into now just the next thing I wanted to ask you. So you talked about how many hours and days a week you train for competitions and having to go through the surgeries and finding ways to get those workouts in, just working around those injuries. How often do you train now?
I'm still insane. I train 6 days a week. Just, you know,
okay.
I really have to still do it. And I mean, my friends are like, wow, you know, I said, you don't understand. It's a totally different 6 days a week. Now, I train 6 days a week my entire career since I was literally I started training very serious for bodybuilding at 19. That was all the way, and my entire really life existence, you know, and, but it was balls to the walls. I mean, I would have to wake up in the morning for leg day and just have to psych myself up for what was going to happen. You know what I mean? Now it's just I actually, you know, I really enjoy it. I don't have to I don't have to play games in my head. Every time I was in there, I was like, someone's training harder than me. Can you imagine? Every time I was like, there's someone in there. So give me that. I was just, my God, it was, you know, so stressful. My training, I loved it. The training was so stressful. It had to be always a certain degree of accelerated insanity, you know? Now it's I go in there. It's my same little schedule. Monday is shoulders. Then Tuesday is back. Wednesday is legs. Thursday, I'm doing chest. Friday is arms. Saturday, whatever might be off. Sunday is my glute day. Because I had to adopt to this whole wellness thing where everybody's doing butt. So I do butt on Sunday. That's new for me. That's all new for me. But I'm a whole day of glutes, you know, because that's the thing to do, right? So I had to evolve in all this crazy training with the evolution of glute training. So that is, you know, I used to do 2 leg days, you know, now my 1 leg day now is a glute day. So it's that is me. And despite all odds with all my injuries and craziness, you know, what I've been through, like I said, life has not been easy. I mean, this is not one surgery, it's 5. I have so many damn shoulder stuff. It's insane. You know what I mean? I've got more stupid, slings and apparatuses and, different types of icing things that I've been through on my shoulders, you know. You just, you know, you just decide, right? And I love to train, and I train for fun, you know. It's all fun now. There's no game playing. There's no, you know, I love my training now, and I really think it's fun. It's supersetting. Because I don't want to train too heavy anymore, because remember, I have a left shoulder that's not great, you know. So I have to say to myself, I can't be doing big things, you know. I'm not going to be deadlifting 405. I'm just not, you know. And these things aren't, but I do hard workouts that are I'm supersetting everything. So if I might do a row with the high pull, and those are supersetted, and, you know, the weights aren't crazy, but they're decent. And everything is a fun kind of, you know, some I'll do tri-sets or quadruple sets, and they're back to back, and they're hard. You know what I mean? You know, you try doing a dumbbell squat with a Romanian deadlift with a leg press and an extension, and I'm doing that 5 rounds, you know what I mean? And then I got more added onto that, you know what I mean? The workouts are just, they're challenging, they're fast-paced. It's a totally, when I tell you, a night and day difference in my training in terms of what I do, but I would still say that there's the intensity there. If somebody were to train with me, and I train with a lot of people still, and they're always like, wow, you know what I mean? This is cool. This is a cool way to train. You know what I mean? Because you're not pyramiding. We're not sitting there going, okay, let's start with 60s. Let's warm up. Let's go 80s, 90s, 100s, and, you know, that was the old days. You know what I mean? And a lot more rest. You know, I was doing big things, man. Every workout was just, you know, was training to die. You know, how heavy can you go? You know, and now it's a weird transition, but it's fun, and I'm embracing it. I really am. I'm embracing the change, and, you know, and I think we have to evolve as humans, you know. So that's kind of my evolution of training, you know, just finding a different way, making so it doesn't feel like I'm doing nothing. I mean, pound presses are a joke. But you make 35-pound presses, listen to this, and you do 30 of them. Superset that with a push-up. It's not easy. That's not easy, okay? You do that 5 rounds. I mean, so it is hard, and I get sore. But I mean, 35-pound dumbbell presses, like, embarrassing, because considering I would never even touch those. You know what I mean? I never even knew what those were when I was training. I warmed up with 60s. I mean, so the idea of me, oh my God, it's hard to even hear myself say it, but I make it challenging. You know what I mean? So I just have a totally different way of looking at, like, my training now.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about that it's just so different from when you were a competitor. There was always like a set schedule, but now it's more fun because you don't have the set schedule. You could just train to, maintain what you have and also just kind of continue to build upon what you have and just build on it without that pressure and the schedule and checking on different parts. You can just, do it with ease and not have to worry about those things. And it's definitely very important, not just in your respective sport, but even in a lot of sports. A lot of retired athletes say training is just much different. It's more fun because it's not so much on a timetable. And I want to continue just with training. I want to ask you, what are your favorite body parts to train?
Well, I mean, I loved, chest was my, I had an amazing chest. My photos show it. I mean, it was just an unbelievable body part for me, just unbelievable. I mean, and I just loved the look of it. I had a higher AP, like my sternum was more, just my mom had the same thing. My mom always looked like she worked out, but she didn't, but so just naturally, just the presence of just my structure. So then when I built the muscle there, it was just like kind of a cool look. But it's funny, you have your favorite body part to train, and then that's taken away from you. It's not always joyful, right? But then I love back. So back, I can, I still like those. Chest and back were the best. Back is probably now my absolute favorite to train. Just absolute. It's because there's nothing I really can't do on back. You know what I mean? So it just feels good. It all, I mean, I always think people neglect their back. You can't neglect your back. Your back is everything. You know what I mean? Just because you don't see it, you know what I mean? It's everything. It creates the frame. It creates the V taper. It creates that thickness. You know what I mean? So, yeah, no, that's it for me. Back and, would be my number one. And then I guess, chest no longer because it's not that much fun anymore. So, and I like doing glutes. I think that's fun. I really, I train with a ex-bodybuilder. Her and I actually used to do her hair and makeup. She's uptown New York. She's like, yo, why don't you come with me and do glutes on Sundays? I'm like, really? Like, real? What? And I mean, I'm having a lot of fun. Like with, you don't have to go on Instagram for 5 seconds and everything's about glute training. But, I never used to do, are you kidding me? I never did those pelvic tilts and stuff. I never did any of that stuff. I was like, what? I mean, but these are fun. These are kind of fun stuff with the band. I never worked with the band, what? Really? So I'm finding these different things challenging, and I'm like, well, this is kind of cool. So I would say glutes and back. One of my favorite body parts.
Hey, everybody. Remember to subscribe, and thank you for watching. Awesome. Now I have to ask you the other question now. Now, what are your least favorite body parts to train? Hey, everybody. Remember to subscribe, and thank you for watching.
I never liked training legs. I mean, it's not that I was afraid of it. I mean, listen, I did it and everything, but I structurally wasn't that great. No one likes to do things they're not good at, I wasn't a good squatter, and I believe in squatting. I think squatting is essential to leg. I mean, without any discussion, my hips are very narrow. I structurally was just a terrible squatter. Like, I tried to be good at it, and I think you should always try to be good at things you're terrible at. So I put a lot of emphasis on it, but I was a bad squatter. I have an L4, L5, S1 issue, so that was early on in my career from a deadlifting incident. But so I always had a double belt, and squatting was always so uncomfortable for me. I would do it. I mean, I did it until I couldn't get my shoulders behind the bar, and then you have the note bar. Then I did front squats forever. You know what I mean? So front squats were better than back squats for me for sure. But it just never felt. It's not about I did it. Train twice a week. I hated every minute of it. But women love to train. I mean, whatever. It wasn't that I loved the challenge of legs. Don't get me wrong. It just never felt good. You know what I mean? My back was always an issue. And then my shoulders became an issue, so I couldn't get my arms behind the bar. And it was just so frustrating. Like, it seemed like one obstacle after another with all my leg training. You know what I mean? So when I tried to squat, then I had front squat, and then whatever, that was a modification. I just didn't back squat much anymore. And then, then there's the Noke bar, and then my knee hurt. And, it was just never, yeah. So I just never, I wish I loved leg training. I really do. I wish I was into it. But that was never my favorite.
All right, and like you said before, sometimes we have to do things that we don't like, but you have to train them in order to maintain in terms of being in competition. And like you said, even though you weren't structurally built the right way in that area, you had to try to maintain it some sort of way in order to, what was pleasing for the judges and you getting on stage. Mm-hmm. And we talked about, with your Type 1 diabetes, but also just another element of the sport of bodybuilding is not just the training, but also the diet as well. I have to ask you this first question. What did your diet consist of then?
Well, I was big on fish. I was really, really a believer. Like Kai Green would have said it too. I mean, fish is just a very clean food. So copious amounts of fish, like flounder, orange roughy, cod, sole, salmon for my fatty fish. So I was a huge fish. I didn't do a lot of red meat back then. I do way more red meat now, but I really was like, this nutritionist, health conscious, whatever. So I loved fish. I loved, my broccoli, my cauliflower, my green beans. I was back in the day when I was competing because I didn't have as much, tools in my toolbox as I do now because I use inhaled insulin, but I kept things moderately low carb. I didn't go crazy on carbs throughout my career. When it came to carbs, it was like I used a lot of low carb foods. I used like low carb wraps, which still had carbs. I loved the bean pastas. I used to diet on those, like Explore. Everybody used to think I was crazy, but we use them in California. They're like 23 grams of protein and tons of fiber. They're made out of black beans and lentils and stuff like that. So I was big on using those. I was like, yeah, I can't believe you can diet with those. I used to use Miracle Noodle. I did stuff no one thought you could diet with. I was like, you guys are just all caught up in like, it's got to be chicken and rice. I dieted so different. And I got I did Miracle Noodles. I did bean pastas. These were like my carb sources. I did low carb wraps for my pasta. I didn't use straight up some sweet potato, but not a lot. I never ate rice. I never did bread per se. It would be like low carb stuff. Then, tons of cottage cheese. And no one uses that. I, every single night, ate a frickin' tub of cottage cheese. Arnold did it back in the day. It's a casein protein. I'm like, you can't eat dairy. Oh, my God. I'm like, what are you doing in your protein shakes? The stupid shit. I was like, whatever. I never listened to anybody. Because, I was like, they don't know what they're, all this pseudoscience, So I ate cottage cheese every single night before I went to bed. I did all these weird little carb sources, like I said, that were kind of avant-garde, I guess. Tons of eggs, loved eggs. I loved eggs and fish. If you would ask me what my diet was, I hated chicken, couldn't stand it, barely ate any chicken. I hated it. I still don't like chicken to this day. So it was tons of eggs, either whole eggs or egg whites or whatever. Tons of fish. Just ridiculous amounts. And then all these, and tons of cottage cheese if you want to, it's so easy to break down what I ate, Because it's so just what it was, And then I did beans. Beans were a big fiber source for me because I felt like they were more low glycemic. So I didn't do what other people, I did lentils, black beans, kidney beans. Those were like kind of my carb source. So totally different. I don't even think you're going to talk to anybody that ate like that. I just ate totally different. I did what felt good for me, and I tried to nutritionally balance things. So there was, with the fiber, you get a lot of, with the beans, you get a lot of potassium, you get a lot of phosphorus, you get a lot of nutrition. But more so than you're going to get from a freaking cup of rice. You're going to get zip out of it's nothing in the rice is like whatever, So I kind of just had a kind of really nutrient dense diet, I'd say, but totally different from how people would eat. You know what I mean? Like eggs and black beans. Who's eating that? That's what I have for breakfast. I didn't eat oatmeal. Oatmeal raised my blood sugar way too much. I'm taking copious amounts of insulin. I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm not doing it. So I did, eggs and black beans, chicken and veggie. Sorry, no chicken. Fish and like veggies. Maybe some of that bean pasta. Then it would be like a protein shake, and then I'd have like dinner would be salmon with mushrooms and some kind of veggie. And then before I went to bed, cottage cheese. There's my diet.
Wow, that's interesting because there's a lot of people that I've talked to in the sport, and they would always say chicken and rice, chicken and rice, and then there would be other things. But you're the complete opposite. You didn't like chicken and rice.
Never ate it once my entire 10 years of competing. Chicken and rice. Forget it. Not doing it. Didn't do it. Remember, I live by my own set of rules, and I look at the bigger picture. I don't do what everybody's doing. If I was doing what everybody's doing, I'd never be where I am today. So I did a totally different approach. And, it was much better, in my opinion, and it was more flavorful. It wasn't as dry and annoying and just blah, you know what I mean? And I looked forward to my food, you know what I mean? And it was absolutely more nutrient dense, you know what I mean? Really didn't care about my macros much. I didn't give a shit. I just knew I needed I was crazy on protein. 200 grams a day. I was, that was my focus. I had to eat protein. So you're getting extra protein in the beans. You're getting protein in the eggs. I'm getting protein in the fish. Protein. It was just protein. However, I built around that, it wasn't a lot of fat. My fats would come from either days where I do whole eggs or salmon. And then the other days would be lower in fat, and I would have a little bit more of the bean pastas or the the legumes. So I kind of structured it like that, but I wasn't throwing in rice, you know what I mean? I wasn't throwing in these other, potatoes. I haven't had forget about that. Do some sweet potatoes, but really wasn't that much.
Wow, that's interesting right there. Like I said before, chicken and rice, that's kind of like a staple of the bodybuilding diet, but you were the complete opposite. Like you said, you like to do your own thing, and hey, that's what worked for you then. And I want to ask you now, what's your diet like now? Do you basically eat the same things, or have you kind of opened things up a little bit more, tried, new different things, or have your way with certain types of food? What's your diet consisting of now?
It is so, now it's like, I said I abandoned the whole, I've got to be their balls to walls. And when you step away from competition, you have to heal from one of the worst eating disorders of your life. You know what I mean? It just is. People can agree or disagree, but as women, and even, just the complete monotony of your diet to, not, now you've got off season, and oh my God, walking away and just saying, I want to just be. I just want to live. I just want to enjoy food. I want to be able to go out to dinner. I don't care what I eat anymore. And I say I'm 152 pounds. I'm lean. I have veins in my abs. I'm lean all year round, where I used to struggle because such extremes, you know what I mean, led to extremes in your weight. And no more. I stay the same. I eat whatever I want. I put no restriction. And by doing that, you're good. You know what I mean? I love my eggs and beans in the morning. Eggs and cottage cheese is my jam in the morning, actually. And then I just mix the eggs and I put the cottage cheese on top. I just love that. And then, protein shakes as snacks, you know what I mean? 'Cause they're just better for you. I don't do bars because those aren't good for you. And feel better with the protein shake. And Fairlife makes that chocolate protein shake that's 42 grams of protein that tastes like chocolate milk. Oh, my God. And then I do love that thing. And then, I'll do lunches, sometimes a salad and chicken because we're at the office. And I don't want to get weighed down by carbs, so it'll be kind of a low-carb deal. And when I get home, it's kind of whatever I want. You know what I mean? If I want to do enchiladas, I'll do enchiladas. The other night I did Indian with the naan bread, and I did a paneer chicken and whatever. It was I know I don't do it anymore, and I don't put a restriction. And if I want to have a lava cake once a week or whatever at a restaurant, I want to go out and have, then I'll do it. You know what I mean? And don't look back and say, oh my God, I'm going to get fat. You're not getting fat. I am not, you know what I mean? By loosening up my mind to allow me to eat whatever I want, I just don't overdo it. There's no binging. And there's no binge eating. You're eating because you want to eat. You stop when you're full. You just live your life, and it is so much better. And that took years to come to terms with that because it was such a distorted eating, for so many years. And walking away from it took 5 years to adjust. So oh my God, there's not going to be a competition. They're not going to deprive me. I'm going to be able to eat whatever I want. And I think and if you've never tried it, I really highly suggest you do. I started on inhaled insulin in 2016, and life-changing. And Ali Amin was the first to expose it to the bodybuilding world, and I didn't get to talk about it much. Inhaled insulin, life-changing. Works faster. It's out of the body sooner. less hypoglycemia. My A1C is a 5.2. You just don't have to try. You just don't have to try. It's just easy. There is no trying with inhaled insulin. You just inhale it. You know what I mean? And it fixes a lot of the problems, you know, and if it doesn't work in an hour, if your sugar's not looking good, you just take more. So with injected insulin and closed loop pumps and everything, the problem is the insulin. When you inject insulin, it goes through sub-Q, and sub-Q insulin never shuts off the liver. So by that never shutting off the liver, you're stuck with too much glucagon, resulting in too much glucose being produced by the liver on top of eating food. It's a recipe for disaster. So every time you go into a meal, you're just looking for your blood sugar rise. Inhaled insulin stays exactly the same. It's amazing. You can eat whatever you want. I have a lava cake. You take 24 units. I don't want to get into how it's dosed, but the dosing is highly, highly, highly different. It's 2 to 1. So if you're going to take 10 units of injected, it's 20 units of Afrezza. But sky's the limit. And so that's what really changed, too. Like, I just don't have to mess around with my insulin. Just take the insulin, you know what I mean? So, it's not fair to say that, yes, my eating disorder was healed by now. It's really, a lot of it's healed by inhaled insulin. So for those listening that have type 1 or type 2 and you're still injecting insulin, you do not have to. You can inhale it. You just have to get a doctor to understand it. And many of them don't. But and so your life is so great. You take your insulin, your once weekly injection of insulin, which is your long-acting, on a Wednesday. Everything else is inhaled. So you want to travel over the weekend, you bring no needles, no pens, no insulin, none of it. You just bring Afrezza and you just inhale it. Simple. So life is really good, you know what I mean? And then you got we're in a Dexcom, so life is a lot simpler with the management of your disease, you know. But for those out there listening or curious, you really you have to push your doctors to think differently. They're not going to be telling you about it because they don't know how to dose it and they don't know how to use it, so they're not going to prescribe it. You know what I mean? Doctors do what they feel comfortable with, and I know this much. As a nurse practitioner, I know the drugs that I feel comfortable with when I'm prescribing for other disease states. So I now know what these doctors are facing and why they're not mentioning to you about inhaled insulin. They don't know how to use it. They never learned in medical school. They will never tell you about it because they don't even know how to write it in the EMR. So they're literally never going to tell you about it. They're going to say bad things about it because they don't know how to use it, write it, what it even does, how it works, when to take it, how fast it goes in, how fast is that. So I'm not going to get on a soapbox, but you're not getting a lot of the things because your doctors are just, they don't know. And it's nothing against them. I'm not saying that. But continuing education is real. And unfortunately, these doctors have been practicing for so long and the diabetes is moving so quickly that it's hard to keep up. So I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying somebody living with the disease, we're keeping people in the dark about something that could literally, no more needles and none. And 1 shot a week is going to be your basal. And the basal is so amazing because we never thought Tresiba was going to work once a day, and it does. And this is a 7-day-a-week insulin, you know what I mean, that just sits in the background and suppresses the liver from making glucagon. So all you need to do is pick up the pace with what you're doing with your food. So inhaled insulin works just more physiologic. That's it.
Wow, that's a lot of important information. And for anybody that's listening out there, please do your research and look into the inhaled insulin Afrezza that she mentioned earlier. Definitely important. Do your research. Get with your doctors or anyone that may be knowledgeable on diabetes. It is extremely important. And thank you again for passing along those tidbits to the listeners out there. And we're going to get more into diabetes in just a little bit. But now that you're out of competition, well, I should say during your competition days, I got to ask you, what were your favorite cheat meals?
Oh, my God. Well, I think I have a personal favorite, which is obviously the molten lava cake, which is unbelievably good. I was addicted to peanut butter, which I no longer am. So anything that had peanut butter in it, fair game. Chocolate chip cookie, like on a skillet, ice cream on top of it, definitely good. And Thunder from Down Under. I mean, I'm talking all desserts here, but which I don't even know if they make anymore. I was Outback. Overall, for a cheat meal, was sushi. Absolutely. It had to be sushi.
That's a popular one. When I talk to a lot of competitors really in your sport, that's one of the first cheat foods that they mention is sushi. So that's interesting. Normally, it's the usual pizza and the hamburgers and stuff. But you mentioned some interesting ones with sushi and the molten lava cake. That's some Those some go-tos right there, definitely. And I just want to continue with, during your competition days, what vitamins and supplements did you take in order to maintain and get ready for competitions?
So, I mean, as a nutritionist, I was just big on kind of the obvious ones. Vitamin D, we all should be taking that. And I would do 10,000 a day. So I'd do the little 5,000 milligram, and I'd do 2 of them. I thought that you need to do 1,000 milligrams maybe twice a day of vitamin C, because when you're pushing yourself so hard, your immune system it's a casualty of the immune system. So I was like, I really had to, the idea of vitamins and minerals was optimizing your health because you're pushing yourself to the ultimate limit. So vitamin D, vitamin C, I would do like a multivitamin just on top of everything. You know, remember, multivitamins are kind of scant in calcium and vitamin D, some of the others, so that's why I supplemented otherwise with extra vitamin D, extra vitamin C, then a multi. I was big on probiotics because I felt your gut health was really important. So I kept a good probiotic, which I always keep recycling, figuring out which one I like, you know, or don't like, because that's ever changing. But I was big on collagen because of my shoulders, and I was big on doing glucosamine, SAMe, because my joints were failing me, you know what I mean? So as much as I could do for joint health, I did, you know, because that became a big priority. But that was really kind of my mainstay when it came to just, if you start going polypharmacy with this stuff, it gets crazy. Like, you want to take everything. So I thought, I want omega-3s, sorry. I was big, even when I do Vasepa now. Vasepa is a 1,000 milligram prescribed omega-3, but Lavazza was back in the day. So I would get that prescribed by my doctor. So I would do omega-3s at 4 to 6 grams a day. So that was kind of cool, you know what I mean? So I would, that was nice to get prescribed. I didn't have to buy it, you know, and it feels more real, you know what I mean? Or like getting it from a doctor, you know, whatever. So I do Lavazza right now. So, I mean, Vasepa. So Vasepa, I have a prescription for. Vasepa is just a prescription, very highly purified omega-3. And I do that currently. So I was doing that then, and I still do it now. I mean, my regime on that is pretty much the same, you know what I mean, in terms of like the vitamins I take then and take now. And I still do creatine. I'm all natural. I don't take anything, you know, supplement-wise other than, you know, I do creatine. I think there's a lot of science behind it. Collagen to this day, you know what I mean? So, you know, it's really basic. I'm not an over-supplementer, you know, I'm just taking copious amounts. I mean, some of these people are just taking everything and anything. I don't know, you know. We don't know. So I think if you have a good diet and you keep up with the basics, everybody needs the vitamin D, you know. And I think omega-3s goes without saying, and maybe a multi and then some extra vitamin C. I mean, I really just keep it simple. I keep it simple these days.
Right, there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you just have to keep things simple, and certainly also know what your body can take as well, and know what your body needs as well. And that's important for any individual, regardless of, you know, what background you're in. It's important to know what your body needs and know what vitamins and supplements you need to take. And I want to just continue with the sport, Peter. And I've got to ask you, in your opinion, what were the best things about bodybuilding?
Oh my God, I love the people. I loved camaraderie. You know, you're in a fraternity, right, or a sorority, or just, you know, it was so cool. You know what I mean? Like you're all in it for the same kind of goal, which is, you know, obviously maybe winning a show, doing a show, being a part of it in some level. The people along the way are just, some of the people I trained with, the people that I helped in the competitions, I helped, you know, just building their self-esteem. I mean, it's the people, you know, the love I got from the fans. It all goes back to the people, right? Like it's how they made me feel, you know, like, and how all the, you know, what I was giving back, maybe with my skill set in the sport, but, you know, what I got back from them too I'm going to go back to love. It's about love, you know, and I'm just I love love, and I felt a lot of love, and I miss that. Like I miss that love that I got from the sport. You know, when I walked in the gym, I felt the love, right? When I trained with a new person or a person would come to train with me, I felt the love. When I was on stage, I felt the love. You know what I mean? It was just so much love. And I think, I don't know, I think that's what keeps a lot of people, you could call it ego, you can call it whatever you want, but I mean, I really call it just like, really just a 4-letter word, love, and then I losing that, not competing, you don't feel that, you know what I mean? Like that whole, God, just like you're on that stage and you just, for me, it was so much bigger than that, like it's what I felt from the people, you know what I mean? Whether that was in my head or not, you know what I mean? It's what I felt. So I get that now, walking away from it, not feeling that, I get that now in how my patients feel, you know what I mean? And what I give back to my patients, like I get that love. When I'm in a clinic, my patients love me. Nobody cancels. My schedule is full. It's very hard to walk away from it. And why do you think people are still competing in their 50s, 60s? You know what I mean? They're just, you lose that, You'll never feel it anywhere else. It's just so incredible. I think it's why performers love to perform, why they love to be on stage, why they love to get up there and whether you're a dancer, singer, whatever, and so that's what I missed, that's what I loved about it.
Absolutely. I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying. You talked about the love that you felt. One of the best things you loved about the sport, and certainly the camaraderie. When I talk to a lot of athletes from that particular area, they kind of say, they echo those same sentiments. They say those same things that you say. And it's just, like you said, it's that fraternity, that sorority atmosphere, that brotherhood, sisterhood. It's truly nothing like it. And now I want to ask you, in your opinion, what were the worst things about the sport?
Oh, I mean, listen, with all the highs comes lows, I mean, there's a lot of cattiness. I mean, I remember just stupid shit, like I don't even know what's going on around me, but big rivalry back when I was doing the USAs and, between some of the women, and women can get really catty, and I'm just like, I don't buy into it, you know what I mean? But, then there's people that the rumor mills, like people would start, people love to watch people fall, and as much as there's the good, there's the bad, right? Because people, oftentimes they get off on seeing people crash and burn, which is really sick actually, but it's kind of the reality of life, And I helped, I mean, I give people my soul, and I really got out of contest prep because I just don't really do it anymore. I mean, number one, I don't need to do it. And to me, it's like gotten so commercialized and, people would be just fair weathered. I mean, I'm giving you my soul. You're not always going to win. You're not always going to win. So if you don't, then they're like, I'm going to hire a new coach. You know what I mean? It was just, there's no loyalty. So I started seeing the disloyalty in competitors when it came to everything that I did for them, hair, makeup, tanning, their contest prep, their choreography, and it's like, well, what have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? And then, the cheapness, no one wants to pay for anything, everybody's like struggling. So it was like, everybody wants a deal, and it's just that type of person is so annoying. You know what I mean? They're so, because they're competing, they're so entitled. Meanwhile, I'm doing so much. You know what I mean? So you're kind of like, I have to ask you to pay me, but it's like, really? Oh my God. So there's a lot of that goes on, because it is an ego-driven sport, and everybody wants to win, and then there's somebody else, just foaming at the mouth to grab your client. I mean, I just was like, this is ridiculous, I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, I was like, do what you got to do, and I just started getting annoyed by the fact that there's just, the loyalty was lacking, the appreciation, what have you done for me lately? I deserve a favor. Why is it this much? Why can't it be that much? And I mean, so I think there's a lot of that frustration. I mean, that goes with any industry, but I just felt like, wow, wow, it's a competition. You know what I mean? Look deep into yourself, like people can't look at themselves. I mean, they literally think they should always win, right? And you're like, listen, let's be honest. You look great in a mirror, alone, at the gym. You look freaking amazing, right? Because it's just you. Compare yourself to, I mean, like I could take a hard look at myself. There's some shows I don't even know how I won. You know what I mean? Honestly, I'm not even going to get into it. I don't even want to talk about it, but I don't know how I won. I was lucky that day. I didn't do anything. I have no idea. It was my day to shine that day for whatever reason. Maybe it was the color of my suit, the way I smiled, the music I chose. I have no idea. But people have to take a look at this stuff. This is a subjective sport. There's nothing objective about it. Okay, nothing. And there's whatever the politics are. Maybe there are some. Maybe there aren't. Maybe you just weren't that good. I mean, I'm sorry. Comparatively, you're good. You're good. But next to this guy, come on. And they can't look at themselves. I got so sick of that. I'm like, I'm okay to look at myself. I know where my flaws. Like, I can literally take a strong look at myself, and a lot of people can't. And I'm not saying that's easy. And I'm not saying how hard you work. I get it. I work so hard. Oh, my God. Everybody's working hard to get on stage, all right? There's nobody that's working harder. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But equally so, everybody has their own challenges to get to a show. So whatever the case may be, I'm not saying. I got tired of it. Like, you have to realize there's hardly anybody is going to make it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a very select few that get to the top of this mountain, right? So enjoy the journey. And you don't have to stab me in the back while we're doing that. You know what I mean? So that just got so, like, I just really was, it got really annoying. You know what I mean? So I really wanted to do something bigger, and that's when I wanted to go into medicine where people really appreciate me. They're coming to see me because I'm changing their life. And when I would try to change their lives in bodybuilding, if they don't win, forget you. You don't have the magic. There's no magic, everybody listening. There's no magic. You can do everything, the same thing the next guy does, you know what I mean? Or the next guy. Coaches don't have any magic. It's just a philosophy that you follow. And there's a million ways to get on stage, There's a million different diets. There's a million different ways to do cardio, a million different ways to train. Doesn't matter. You just pick away. This is not rocket science. I even think it's hilarious. I saw Lee Priest talk about it. You don't even really need a coach. I mean, I never had a coach. I did my own diet. I did my own thing. I don't need anyone. Nobody knows my body like I know it. I mean, give me a break. I find the whole thing so insane. Like, I mean, even when I would coach people, I'd be like, listen, I'm not going to coach you. This is a relationship because I don't know your body the way you know it. I don't know the way you react to food. You can't even stomach fish. You throw up at it. So that's not going to work. You know what I mean? So anyway, my point of the story is it got frustrating. You know what I mean? So I wanted to do I was appreciated by people that I could really help, and that was the Type 1 community. I always say that I always help Type 1s. I never say no to any Type 1 that wants to compete because I know that I know more than anybody else in that area. So I will not. But the average guy that comes to me that wants me to help them, I'm always like, I can't. I just can't. Because the minute it doesn't go your way, believe me, you're bad-mouthing me, and you're just throwing me under the bus. And that's just the truth. But if they're Type 1, I got your back. I got you. You know what I mean? Because that is my solid, and there's nobody that can help a Type 1. If you're a Type 1 having a coach that does not have Type 1 diabetes, you really got to, you got to stop. They just cannot possibly conceptualize what's going on. You know what I mean? So that is one area that I always say to this day. I have a few people that I still, that are Type 1s, but in terms of, the tangent that I'm going on, that's the thing. As much as I love all the people in the camaraderie, then you always have the ones that they just can't see through their own, just their own. This sport is brutal. You're literally putting yourself out there to be criticized, You got to be able to take it. I mean, life is not going to be, everybody gets a gold star, So, yeah, that's just, I think it's just, I love loyalty. I love people. And I think people in this industry have to learn to, better respect those that are going out on a limb to them, help them or whatever it might be.
You definitely touched on a lot of points, and I just wanted to make a note that you have to go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And it sounds like you put up with a lot. You would definitely tolerate it, and you want to go where you're being celebrated, and you're in a place now where you're being celebrated. And certainly you went through a lot from what you're telling me and the audience as well. It's just kind of like the worst things that you had to endure being in the sport. And I just want to stay again just with bodybuilding before we go on to something else, something that's been in the sport, I guess, since its creation or the popularity has been steroids. I want to ask you, have you ever used them, or have you just gone the natural route? Like, what's been your relationship like with them?
I mean, if you're going to compete at a competitive level at any sport that requires you to achieve top muscularity, top conditioning, you have to understand there's always a cost. And I just think when I first started this, I really thought that it was, and I achieved quite a bit, you know what I mean? Because I think there's just way too much lackadaisical attitude about performance-enhancing substances, like all over the internet. I mean, it's a big decision to make, and a lot of the things that go along with it, there's no walking away from, you know what I mean? So I always think that you really have to explore how much you love training and how much you love this lifestyle and how much you've put into it where you've exhausted all of your natural resources. Like Kai Green is a perfect example. Kai trained natural for most of his career until he really made it big in the NPC. And if you look at how just incredible he was able to attain so much muscular size, is because he had the work ethic from when he was a young child, you know what I mean? Making it in, the Bronx and Brooklyn, you know what I mean? And the fights he had to go along the way. But I think if you're going to compete at the Olympia, at the Arnold Classic, you have to decide where your comfort level is with performance-enhancing substances. Mine was never into masculinizing myself. Like, I never wanted to take things that were of high androgen value. Like, I looked at things as how far can you go on the absolute small. I mean, and you can just, it's my decision, but that always was a difficult, coming to terms with, because if you look at the level of muscularity some of these women were achieving, it's almost impossible, if not completely impossible, without performance-enhancing drugs. So, I had to come to terms with what I felt comfortable with and what was safe for me, which is the very light anabolic substances that, the girly ones, you know what I mean? And that was all that I felt comfortable with. I never really, because of my condition, having type 1 diabetes, I was always predisposed to a higher risk of cardiovascular risk. I mean, it's just how it is. I mean, most people with diabetes die of some type of heart disease because the heart is pumping all this blood every single day. The higher the blood sugar, you're just destroying, all your vessels, right? So anything that's going to cause lipid value changes, and I mean, none of this stuff is free. You don't just take any drug for free. Nothing. You know what I mean? So whatever you do, there's always a side effect, and so the answer to that question is, if you're going to compete at the Olympia level and you're going to compete at the Arnold Classic and you're going to be at the top of your game, you're going to have to make a decision. The decisions I made were very mild in my choices, but you have to decide. And I was my life, you know what I mean? And I wanted to be the absolute best I could be under my own, guidance of what I felt comfortable with. So I was pushed along the way, you should do this, you should do this. I did not, and you have to be strong-willed, because along the way, many, many men and coaches and whoever else will have a formula that they want you to follow. And I think you got to do your own research and say, hey, this is what I feel comfortable with. And for this period of time, I can do an 8 to 16-week prep, and this is what I feel comfortable with. But then I want to, take a break. You know what I mean? I don't want to be on the, So that's kind of the approach I took. And I could have been a lot more muscular, a lot more, but I had to go to sleep every night with the decisions that I made, and I did not want to have any regrets. I did not want to be shaving my face. I did not want to have too deep of a voice. I did not want to, I just couldn't, I can't deal with those things. So you see what I'm saying? I can't do it. So I had to decide, okay, how far do I want to go in this sport, and what am I willing to risk? My femininity was not one of them. So you got to make some hard decisions, and I made those hard decisions. I have no regrets. I didn't walk away from this sport with anything but my orthopedic problems, which, believe me, but I didn't walk away with saying, oh, shit, you know what I mean? I've got to, do all these different things because I sacrificed my femininity. That wasn't something I was willing to do. And anytime people get anabolic steroid in your body, I don't care if it's Anavar, Primobolan, it doesn't matter. They're anabolic steroids, and they can cause androgen side effects. It is what it is, no matter how mild it is. So you have to really be cautious as a woman. And I have no problem if that's something you want to do. Listen, you want to. Who cares? And then you could have, if you're cool with that, and I don't really care. I think it's great if you have the balls to do it. You know what I mean? I never had the balls to do it. Like, I just was like, oh my God. I was always like a little afraid. I was gun shy, and I knew what I was able to do because I competed naturally. You know what I mean? So I just felt like, whatever. If I a little bit, maybe that's all I really ever need, and that's all I kept to my guns on that, and then I did pretty good. You know what I mean? And I walked away without any consequences to my health, or my femininity. So I think that's just the kind of the takeaway. But again, I'm not even judging. I don't care. Listen, I love hypermuscular women. I think they're amazing. I just know I couldn't do it. What comes with it, you know what I mean, is a lot. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of side effects of this stuff. So I know too much now, especially with the human body, that I just be so cautious, mixing all this different ish, So I guess that's it, but I have it's everywhere. I mean, it's all over. It's not going anywhere. The cat's out of the bag, you know what I mean? So it's part of the fitness industry, really. I mean, wow, has it ever just exploded with now it doesn't even seem like it's a secret. It's like all over social media,
Hey, everybody. Remember to subscribe, and thank you for watching. Yeah, absolutely. And I just kind of want to say, you talked about you doing your research and having a schedule in place. I wanted to ask you, were these injectable, or did you take it like by mouth through vitamins? How did it work?
Certain chemicals, like Anavar, is oral. They don't make it in an injectable. So that's kind of the safest, where everyone's like, oh, God. But honestly, orals are not even that safe for the body. As we know, as taking insulin. I mean, to avoid first pass of the liver, injectables are actually better. You know what I mean? So everyone thinks, oh, God, you did an injectable. I mean, to be totally honest with you, it's actually safer. You know what I mean? So, Anavar can cause a lot of side effects, really, to the lipid panel. Man, I can tell you that's for sure. And they're thinking, oh, it's just Anavar. It's like, wait a minute. Really, injectables are better. You know what I mean, in terms of safety, honestly. So, the things that were, to throw out there. You can inject EQ. You can do DECA, NPP. Later on in my career, I really only messed with Nandrolone, which is a Nandrolone propionate, which is a shorter-acting DECA-durabolin, because my joints were so freaking bad. So that was helpful. The Anavar, and then Primobolan was around back in the day, but I don't even think Primobolan is even real these days. So if you find that it's real, it's very expensive. But that's about as good as it got. You know what I mean? It just wasn't. I didn't use clenbuterol, which is a big fat burner, because it messed up my blood sugar. So nope, didn't do it. Wasn't really big on thyroid because I know too much about it. I didn't really believe on. People would do so much thyroid, and I'm like, it's kind of counterintuitive. Number one, it's not good for your heart. Number two, it's also counterintuitive to building muscle. So I wasn't really big on that either. Wasn't huge on fat burners. I just really just diet and cardio. So I didn't really, get off with all these fat burners. People were doing Adderalls and, all these stimulants and all this stuff. I didn't do any of that stuff. So it's amazing I made it as far as I did. You know what I mean? It really is. It's amazing I did as far as I did because I was really just so, think about it. I didn't even drink coffee. And coffee has fat burning power. What the hell? I don't even know how I did it, I think helpful for me, to be truthfully, near the end, was when I started using GLP-1s. So what I think really made the difference for me, because I wasn't big on these things, for fat burning, and if you want to work with me in the future, because this is where the future is, I started on Victoza, one of my last competitions. I knew that was magical. I just knew it. I knew 10 years ago that this would be the biggest diet drug in all of the world. And it is. It is. Now we have Ozempic, #1 drug in the entire world, supply-demand issues, the whole deal, semaglutide, everything. Made a huge difference. You don't need thyroid. You don't need clenbuterol. You don't need any of it. So I knew that was a big win for me because I was like, I'm onto something. Because I had all access because I was in the diabetes world. This is what I did, So
So I started using that totally off-label. It's not for type 1s. Again, told you it should be, but it's not. But I'm like, wow, this is it. And I talked to my doctor about it, and I'm like, listen, we're on to something here. Then the SGLT2 class came out, which is Invokana, which is Jardiance, and Farxiga. Then I knew I was onto something. That drug basically causes you to leach out can be up to 300 grams of carbohydrate a day, right? So your kidneys reabsorb glucose, which is an adaptation to basically starvation. So everybody's body does this. You have this reabsorption of the glucose through a channel called SGLT2, which is sodium glucose transport receptor, and you block it. So I started using that. These are diabetes drugs. Type 2 diabetes drugs used off-label. Amazing. So in terms of losing fat, not a problem. You don't need clenbuterol. You don't need thyroid. You don't need tons of stimulants. You just need to work with your own body's ability to use glucose and increase insulin sensitivity, right? You're making your body more magical. So I really just took science to like an out-of-the-box way. You know what I mean? Like when people start using metformin, totally get it. Metformin increases insulin sensitivity. I'm not a big fan of metformin, but I can get why you do it. You know what I mean? I totally can get it. And in the diabetes sense, there's a lot of magic in a lot of these medications that can help with making your body more adapted to losing fat. So that being said, I really kind of minimized the use of just anabolics in general, very minimal, and kind of maximize what I knew about, different types of medications in order to maximize fat burning. You know what I mean? Which I still use to this day. I have no shame in my game to admit that I love semaglutide. I think it's amazing. I prescribed it. I love it. I think it's totally life-changing for diabetes patients, but more so just for your overall health because it lowers myocardial infarction, it lowers visceral fat, increases serum fat, works with the reward system in your brain. So basically what I loved about bodybuilding is how do you use the tools of like out-of-the-box science, which is your anabolics and your crazy concoctions of peptides and, clenbuterol. I mean, clenbuterol is just a beta agonist. I mean, it's an asthma drug, so that we realize kind of creates fight or flight in the body, which can burn fat. I mean, it's pretty genius, Didn't love it, hated it because it raised my blood sugar, but get it. So the point is, the world of bodybuilding is a science. It is a science about how to be fabulous at all costs. And so you just have to kind of weed between what that means to you because people will die for this sport. I wasn't willing to do that. And I was willing to, though, utilize the science within fat burning and building muscle, what that looks like, and then kind of create the best way that, you can do. None of it's, what I'm talking about in terms of semaglutide and SGLT2, very good health benefits. But when you talk about anabolics, it's really a game of risk. You've got to check, what's going on. You're increasing your red blood cell counts, you're increasing the thickness of your blood, and you're also changing your lipid levels. Not to mention, you're putting an excess amount of androgens in a female body. So, if you're okay with that, you know what I mean? And with that comes side effects. They're hard to deal with, I think, when I'm picking little hairs, it's like, So, it's a part of the game. You're going to play it. Just know what keys to play on that keyboard, you know what I mean? That you can walk out feeling good about yourself at the end of the day. Because there is a life after bodybuilding most of the time, or maybe not, you know what I mean? So maybe this is all you decide to do.
Well, thank you so much for being honest on that issue and just giving us the 411 on the different things that you used and also what's out there in the market. Again, thank you so much for your honesty and your expertise on that. And speaking of honesty and expertise, Type 1 Diabetes and Diabetes Education, just tell the listeners out there what you're doing to get the awareness out in terms of the education with diabetes and specifically Type 1 diabetes.
Well, I think, by becoming a nurse practitioner and doing what I'm doing, and really creating a practice where it's welcoming to treat a disease that most doctors just don't even know what to do with. I am a huge advocate of, type 1s and about out-of-the-box thinking for this disease. There's so much right now in the world of just early, basically detection, because type 1 diabetes is not just type 1 diabetes. It comes in 3 phases. There's a 0, there's a 1, and there's a 2, and there's a final 3. So if we can screen our little ones that have, like you and I, we could have been screened, and we had type 1 diabetes many years before we actually were diagnosed. And we could do testing. So if you are listening and you have type 1 diabetes in your family and you have you've had children or offspring, they should be screened. And we're not doing it yet, but I will become an advocate of early screening where we find the GAD antibodies, the insulin antibodies, the zinc transaminase detection, where we are actually finding these occurring in people that eventually will get type 1. And if we do find them occurring, we can actually intervene. And there's new monoclonal antibodies out there that can help prevent the disease. We're sitting on the cusp of maybe one day being able to offset the immune system so that it never fully attacks the beta cell. We're on the cusp of it. Our first medication just came out last year. So my big advocacy is early detection to keep these little babies, these little kids, from ever having to deal with this disease. And hopefully getting the word out about SGLT2s and GLP-1s, especially in the type 1 world. We need further research. We need to be stronger in our peer-reviewed journals about how we feel about basically GLP-1s helping to proliferate the beta cell and keep it strong in these newly diagnosed type 1s that are 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, whatever it is. These are little kids that I hope will never have to deal with what you and I had to deal with. You know what I mean? Even with all the great advances, this disease sucks. It just sucks. So that is my mission, and when I'm done at my clinic, I want to do an outreach. I want to have a place for people to go, for parents to be able to go. And, I can't tell you the amount of people I talked to. My nephew spoke to me about his, we have type 1 diabetes in his family, and his little one is a blood sugar of 208 after a meal. It's not supposed to happen. You know that, and I know that. On a 6-year-old, not supposed to happen. And the doctor's like, well, this is in, suburbia Midwest, Oh, well, we don't, everything looks okay, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. It's not okay, though. You know what I mean? So they don't know how to screen. So I'm, in the midst of speaking to the pediatrician, getting them to an endocrinologist, getting them to know how to screen. Once we have the screening, then we've got to get them to the right people because there's very few clinics across this country that are doing this type of infusion. But if it was my kid, I don't care where I had to go. 2 weeks of an infusion for 30 minutes every day for 14 days absolutely sucks. I get it. But could prevent the disease for we don't even know how long. If it's 5 years, 10 years, believe me, it's easier than when I was at 12 than if I was 18. And I already knew that I was going to have it, to be able to be more prepared, So, yeah, so this is that's where I'm at with how I feel about, just hopefully one day preventing this disease.
That's awesome. And like I said before, the education has improved and is continuing to improve with the research and the medications. And also you mentioned about different infusion treatments. So again, we're just, like you said, we're on the cusp of it and there's still a lot of work to be done, but we're on the mend when it comes to the diabetes education. And I want to talk now just about you being a registered dietitian and a registered nurse. Just tell me some of the things that you've had to go through and the things that you enjoy about being a registered dietitian and a registered nurse.
Well, when it comes to being a dietitian, that was the foundation of my career as a bodybuilder. In terms of talking about diet now, it's very exhausting, to be honest with you, because I've done it for so long. It's very frustrating talking to an average person about diet because they oftentimes just, it's just a very difficult change that they have to make. And I prefer my nursing. I really do. I prefer nursing. I wish I'd honestly done nursing first than before being a registered dietitian. I love the foundation of being a registered dietitian, but in terms of its practicality, oh my God, it's exhausting. Because people behavior change is a real difficult tackling, demon in people, But that being said, it is what it is, right? So I've moved on, and now I do more diabetes education, which I much more prefer, and nursing. So it's a lot more. It's a lot more fun. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Sounds like you're having a lot of fun and definitely seem to be at peace with what you're doing. And this was so much fun, Colette. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us on the program. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media, any websites. Let the listeners know that as well.
Yes, thank you. So I have my IG, which is Colette Nelson Official. My Facebook, which is Colette Nelson. So the best way to get in touch with me is through my Instagram, and that's Colette Nelson Official, and you can just message me there if you're interested, and I really look forward to, hopefully reaching out to some of you, and especially my Type 1 folks out there, and bodybuilders as well.
Before I let you go, Colette, I want you to give an inspiring message to all the listeners out there that may feel that they have a lot of obstacles or hurdles that they have to overcome. Do you have any words of encouragement for the listeners out there? Whatever you want to say, the floor is yours.
Oh, my gosh. Listen, life is so fleeting. You only have, if we're lucky, 75 years, if we're lucky, right? So maybe we'll be luckier, and maybe it's 80 years, right? That's only 80 summers, 80 falls, 80 winters, 80 birthdays. It's such a short time on this planet. You have got to seize every day and visit life like to the absolute fullest. Don't waste a day in bed sleeping all day, because there's so much life to live. And if you can dream it, dream it, and just set your mind to what it is that you're passionate about. Figure it out. And it's sometimes it's evolving, but figure it out, make a decision, and just do it. Because this is not a dress rehearsal. There isn't a do-over. This is your one shot. So I just say seize it. Seize the moment every day. Seize it today. Seize it tomorrow. Seize it the next day. And start. Because from the start, you just get there, right? I started 10 years ago, and I got there. But if you never start, you're never going to get there. Best of luck to all of you out there. Live every day like it's your last.
As they say, carpe diem, seize the day, right?
Yep. Beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm,
seize the
absolutely.
Day.
Colette, you're right about that. Colette Nelson. Colette, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us on the program. If ever you want to come back on, just feel free to let us know.
Oh, Ed, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I appreciate you. We'll be back with more right after this.
Noise is everywhere. Excessive noise is harmful, linked to sleep deprivation, hearing loss, and heart disease. Should noise be the price we pay for progress? Actually, no. Many noise sources have quieter options. Gas-powered landscaping equipment is obsolete, with battery-powered options greatly reducing noise and air pollution. Audible car alarms are obsolete, with vehicle immobilizers and GPS tracking providing silent anti-theft technologies. Quieter backup warning sounds are available, and adjustable directional sounds are less intrusive. So what can you do to reduce noise levels? Talk to store and building managers about safe sound levels. Work with elected officials and the police to strengthen noise enforcement. Join Noise Free America, a coalition to promote quiet.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
2% cash back on all purchases. On your BR Telco credit card, no cap.
No cap.
Unlimited 2% cash back even on this sweater?
No cap. Even those sweet jean shorts you're wearing.
You like my jean shorts? No cap.
Actually, that's cap.
Get unlimited 2% cash back with the BR Telco Cashback Visa. There's no cap, and that's no cap. Apply now at brtelco.org/no-cap. Subject to creditworthiness.
Hi, this is Joe Helm with Helm Paint and Decorating. Happy to announce our new 4 locations in Baton Rouge. We are new to Baton Rouge, but not new to paint. We are a family-run business with over 50 years experience, assisting customers with the best quality Benjamin Moore paint, supplies, and design services. We also offer free, fast delivery and expert color matching. Call or stop by any of our locations on Perkins, Jones Creek, Highland, or Choctaw, or shop us online at helmpaint.com.
Helm Paint and Supply.
Helm, yeah.
Order like a champ at Raising Cane's. With tailgates of hand-battered chicken fingers and cane sauce and jugs of freshly made tea and lemonade, you can guarantee victory for every game day meal. Order online or on our app.
Raising Cane's chicken fingers. One love. Go Tigers.
Built upon a solid foundation of cast iron and steel, the Kubota LO1 series is part of our tractor lineup, rated #1 in durability and owner experience. They feature powerful Kubota diesel engines and easy operation. The durable Kubota LO1 series. Talk to your local Kubota dealer today to schedule a demo. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
M&L Industries, on the web at mling.net.
Check out the great savings throughout the store at Albertsons. This week at Albertsons, get USDA Choice Boneless Chuck Roast for $3.99 per pound and General Mills cereal or Nature's Valley granola bars for $1.99 each when you buy 3. Visit Albertsons.com for more deals.
2% cash back on all purchases. On your BR Telco credit card, no cap.
No cap.
Unlimited 2% cash back even on this sweater?
No cap. Even those sweet jean shorts you're wearing.
You like my jean shorts? No cap.
Actually, that's cap.
Get unlimited 2% cash back with the BR Telco Cashback Visa. There's no cap, and that's no cap. Apply now at brtelco.org/no-cap. Subject to creditworthiness.
Hello, this is the BR Telco operator. How can I assist you today?
Hey, can you tell me why I should bank at BR Telco?
Well, I don't mean to spin the street yarn, but you'd be a monkey's uncle not to bank with us. We do everything the big banks do, plus we've been in the community for over 85 years, and your money stays here in the community, not Wall Street. Any other questions?
Sure, yeah. Could you connect me with Anita Bass, please?
I'm not falling for that one again.
Find out all the reasons you should get to know Telco at brtelco.org. Federally issued by NCUA.
2% cash back on all purchases. On your BR Telco credit card, no cap.
No cap.
Unlimited 2% cash back even on this sweater?
No cap. Even those sweet jean shorts you're wearing.
You like my jean shorts? No cap.
Actually, that's cap.
Get unlimited 2% cash back with the BR Telco Cashback Visa. There's no cap, and that's no cap. Apply now at brtelco.org/no-cap. Subject to creditworthiness.
Lucky Land Casino asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kid's PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details. Lucky Land Casino asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry. We were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for another exciting edition of The Robinson Show. Once again, a big special thank you to Colette Nelson, athlete, also certified diabetes educator, also registered nurse and nurse practitioner. Once again, a big special thank you to Colette for her expertise and knowledge in her various areas that she has participated in and continue to be involved in the fight against type 1 diabetes. And until next time, as always, remember, put God first in everything you do and you can't go wrong. Until next time, stick to the script. I'm out. Peace.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry. We were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Visit Albertsons for great deals throughout the store. This week at Albertsons, 1-pound containers of strawberries and 6 ounces of raspberries or blackberries are buy one pack, get one free. Plus, get family-size Oreos, buy one, get one free. Visit Albertsons.com or head in store for more deals.
There's no comparison, but we want you to discover that for yourself. Compare the cost of your degree program at Columbia Southern University through the Cost Comparison Calculator. Find out for yourself your level of financial commitment at other online universities. More importantly, find out how much you can save at Columbia Southern. Compare Columbia Southern with over 1,000 other online degrees at SaveWithCSU.com. There's no comparison. Take control. Text SAVE to 41484 to receive your link. There's no comparison, but we want you to discover that for yourself. Compare the cost of your degree program at Columbia Southern University through the Cost Comparison Calculator. Find out for yourself your level of financial commitment at other online universities. More importantly, find out how much you can save at Columbia Southern. Compare Columbia Southern with over 1,000 other online degrees at SaveWithCSU.com. There's no comparison. Take control. Text SAVE to 41484 to receive your link.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry. We were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess? Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details. With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.